I'd like to point out about the differences between the two genders. Something really funny. I have seen these different sorts of ways that an animal could actually reproduce, and this planet with one gender has a lot this planet has animals of the planet has animals of one gender. That's not that it's not an actual planet that you can find here, but I found it in a dream. So again, this does not make it any less real, besides it not physically existing, than any other type of idea or concept. First, compared to something like, I don't know, quinine, which is a molecule that glows in black light here, but may not glow in black light in another light setting. The trees, they communicate by releasing pollen and speaking with other trees. These pollen is sophisticated enough to move on their own accord, even fly, and which makes them animals, which means the plants there produce animals as pollen, which communicate their different structures to each other in order to produce more trees. And some of them have evolved even to the point where they are animals, and they release pollen from their hair, and the pollen grows into other plants that produce their children. These people don't produce children out of their bellies. The child grows out of a clear sac. That doesn't have to be maintained at any temperature because it's inert until it's time to hatch. It doesn't grow. It doesn't move while it's there, but it can still see. So this is literally the seed that has been enlarged several times while the baby was growing, and that's how they reproduce. This has drastic effects on the way they live in families. They don't rear children. The children, when they hatch, they have to fend for themselves if they aren't brought in nurseries. Almost a person can work in a nursery and not specifically care for any children that did not come from her own body. When two different gametes from two different people meet in the soil, it combines in the soil and grows into an ovum, which may produce a child or not. So compared to that, we actually gestate our children and produce painful childbirth from our own bellies, which may cause death or severe injury. Of course, that's the half of the people that actually have to do that, which follows this graph. In this graph, there seems to be 3 genders, and which makes 8 different possibilities of pregnancy and childbirth and child rearing. And 8 different possibilities of childbirth and 8 factorial different possibilities for child rearing. Sorry. What else? So they don't marry each other. Instead, they just live together, which means and they don't copulate. They don't have any sex, which is not boring for them, because if you actually tried to describe sex to them, they would be disgusted. Why? Because that's a very specific location. Another part about those people is the kind of light that they live under, which follows this graph, does not produce animals. Those people are moving. Those people are literally moving, walking plants. They have cellulose bodies. They have bodies made out of cellulose and not muscle fibers. The animal they have the cellulitic muscle fibers are able to move according to us completely different sets of chemical reactions that don't involve ATP. I don't quite understand how that works, but apparently they're much physically stronger than us, and their brains can process information faster than ours, and they can see many more types of lights than we can. And this is all the animals that live on that planet. So let's describe the orbit of that planet. Yeah, the atmosphere of this planet is full of what you would call glass. And this glass conducts static when it flies through the air. This static converts ozone into oxygen at a constant given rate, releasing ultraviolet light. It turns out the light incident onto the planet gets refracted in this way, so that whatever effect the light would have on the Earth, on that planet, otherwise would be cancelled out by this. And they're exposed to a lot more a lot more ultraviolet light than we are. So